Hello again. Today we're going to be working on making a cabbage casserole, kind of like cabbage rolls, much lazier version, super healthy. But first, we had a number of entries for our last bread making class, and everyone did great. So I have $100 here in Visa prepaid cards, and I'm just going to draw a winner. You can see I've kind of folded up names in there. So let's see who wins. All right, winner, Vicky Sturgeon. Congratulations, Vicky. If you can email me with your address, I can make sure these are sanitized and they're put into an envelope and on their way to your place. So this cabbage roll casserole is very basic ingredients in your house. Cabbage is sold generally for under $1 a pound, super cheap. Ground beef, onions, tomatoes, and some spices, a little bit of cheese. First step, we're gonna take 1 pound of ground beef, and you're gonna brown it in your pan. Usually there's like more than one thing going on, you know, in this kitchen at one time, and I like to multitask. So part of what needs to be done is the ground beef needs to be browned, but also you're going to want to take your cabbage and you're going to want to slice it up into kind of 1-inch thickness pieces, little bite-sized pieces. And we're going to get that cooking down at the same time as we have our ground beef cooking, so that when everything is nice and ready, we're able to put them all into the same container together. So 1 pound of ground beef, and you're going to need about 1.5 heads of cabbage, an average size cabbage. I mean, if you end up with a giant cabbage, then 1 would probably do. But I've got kind of 2 small ones here that I'm working with. I'm gonna light my other burner here. Cabbage can be tough to cut. All right, so I'm going to show you kind of the thickness of what you want your cabbage to be. So you're going to go all along, chop her up, leaving. You see this piece? I don't know if everyone's worked with cabbage before. You want to cut this piece out. It's not something you should be eating. I don't think it'll kill you, but it certainly won't be pleasant. So we're going to get this all going, and it'll be sauteing down until it's just kind of, for lack of a better word, limp, soft to touch, and you know, it's not going to be crunchy. All right, so I will be right back once these 2 things are completed cooking. Probably give it 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll walk you on to the next step. Okay, so on to our next step. We're going to add onions. I like lots of onion. It's up to you how many you add, but I have about 2 small red onions. Recipe calls for 1 medium-sized white onion. It's pretty versatile, whatever's in your fridge. Even if you have like chives growing in your garden, you can use that. It's a little bit milder in flavor, but you know, if you want to avoid going to the store. So I just want to dice those up kind of into a little bit. And our ground beef is just about done cooking, and I want to just throw these all into 1 pan. I like dishes that don't require tons and tons of frying pans for all the different ingredients. It just makes my evening and meal prep a lot easier if I can just use 1 or 2 pans for the whole thing. So yeah, that's generally what I do. So we're going to throw in all of that onion, and then we are going to add our spices. So spices are at the root of cooking. They give everything its flavor. I love garlic, I love onion. Heaping spoonful or more of garlic. And then we have paprika here. Paprika gives a smoky flavor to this dish that otherwise wouldn't be present. So you see the rich color of that paprika. About a teaspoon and a half. We also have thyme, which usually is kind of a Italian kind of home cooking spice, but it pairs well in this dish because there's a tomato-based sauce. Yeah, so those are the main spices. I like to add a little bit of pepper, fresh ground pepper, pepper out of a shaker, whatever works for you. And we're going to let this cook down until the onions are translucent and soft. You're probably on medium-high heat, depending on your stove. I have a gas stove, so it's pretty darn hot. You know, you can be close to burning something really quickly, so I keep mine on medium, but you guys know your stoves. Okay, so we're just going to continue cooking down the cabbage, kind of starting to have it soften a little bit, stirring occasionally. I like to put a little bit of water in the bottom of the pan. It just helps anything from sticking. And so when the onion and hamburger are completely done, we'll be back and we'll show you what to add next. Actually, pause that for a second. You're going to need, because this is a cabbage roll casserole, you're going to need 2 cups of cooked rice. So you're going to want to get that going. I've got mine cooking in my instant pot, but you can cook it in a regular pot, you can cook it in the microwave, however you cook your rice. Even if you have an instant pouch of rice, that'll work. You just need 2 cooked cups. Any type of rice would work. Alright, so as you can see, we are nicely cooked. Onions are getting soft. Cabbage is still cooking down. Yeah, it can take a while. So you're going to need 2 different types of tomatoes here. You're going to need just a can of diced tomatoes. I have a gigantic can that I've been using for the last week on different things I've been cooking. So that's what this is, and I've pre-measured it out. So you're going to need a can, so that's about 14 or 15 ounces of diced tomatoes, and then the same amount in a tomato sauce. So 14 or 15 ounce can. So I'm just going to add this right into the pan, all in the same pan. Easy peasy, not a lot of dishes, lots of flavor. And this is also tomato sauce that was left over from my previous cooking throughout the week. I tend to just cook in a way where I can just use what I have. It's the best bang for my buck. So we are going to stir this all in, and we are going to let it cook down a little bit till the tomatoes till they start blending kind of into the sauce. We're going to add a little bit of water to this because after this boils down for probably 5 or 10 minutes, we're going to add our cooked rice. That rice will, the reason we need to add a little bit of water to this is that rice will absorb quite a lot of that water, even though it's cooked. So we are going to add just a 1/4 cup to this dish. Woo! All right. And we're just gonna let her go. Just let her sit and cook and develop all of those flavors. And we'll see you back in about 5 or 10 minutes. Okay, so our sauce is simmering. It's kind of lightly bubbling and working through. I have 2 cups of pre-cooked rice here that I'm just gonna add straight into the same exact pan. This is such a comfort meal. I don't know anyone in my family that doesn't like a good cabbage roll, but personally, I don't have the time to sit there and soak all the cabbage leaves and wrap everything up. But I still want the flavor, and that's where this comes in. It's such a good recipe. It's so filling from really cheap ingredients. It's also very healthy. I sub in lean ground beef when I make mine just because I don't like a lot of extra fat in there. But hey, whatever you have. You could even use pork or turkey if you're really wanting to step up your health game. So we're going to let that simmer for another 5 minutes together, and then we're going to start assembling our casserole. Alright, so you're going to need a large dish, a pan, whatever you have, or a couple small ones, whatever you have in your house. I like to spray my pan with non-stick spray. I just get this from Costco, but anyway, you could use butter, oil, just spread it on. And you're going to start layering. We're going to start layering this dish. So you're going to want to bring your cabbage over to your pan and just provide a layer on the bottom. I mean, about half the cabbage is what you want to use. Spread it out so it's kind of like a lasagna, but I don't know, cabbage. You want a little bit of a base so that it can hold the sauce. And there we go. Okay, so I'm going to bring this over to my pan, and I'm just going to scoop about half of this mixture right in here. Spread it around evenly so that you don't have one side that's too big. If you've ever made a lasagna, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Just spread it out nice and even, and everyone will be happy with the portions they get. And just kind of mush it down. Mush, 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 mush. Yeah. And then we're going to come back with this cabbage again, and we're going to layer. Beautiful layers of flavor. Now, if you don't work with cabbage very often, this is one of those superfoods. It's super healthy. It's cheap. It's low cal. I like to sub it in lots of different dishes. It's a way to get veggies into my tiny humans who sometimes argue with me about that whole vegetable thing. Yeah, I'm that mom. So then I'm going to take the remainder of my sauce, and I'm just going to scoop it all in. Kind of looks like one big gloopy mess, but that's okay. Scooping it in, and this is quite a generous portion. Whoop. We're flooding, we're flooding. It is big. You won't be hungry after you eat this, that's for sure. This is a serving size of 10 servings. So if at the end I'll show you, if you cut it, kind of score it in 10, you'll know what one serving is. And one serving of this is only 250 calories, full of protein, full of flavor. So we're gonna wrap it in tin foil and get it in the oven. Our oven's set for 350. It's gonna go in the oven for 40 minutes with the foil tightly wrapped. And then we're gonna pull it out. We're gonna sprinkle the top with cheese, because who doesn't like cheese? And we'll put it back in for another 20. So I'll show you this when it comes out at the 40-minute mark. See you soon. Okay, so we are at 40 minutes. I'm just gonna remove this from the oven. We're gonna take the foil off. And super simple, we're just gonna sprinkle the 2 cups of mozzarella on the top. If you're not counting calories, I mean, by all means, use more. I would, but you know. Woo. Just try and get some on each piece so that everybody has equal portions of cheese. And then I like to take a little bit of thyme and sprinkle it right on the top. It just makes it look nice. It also adds a little bit of an extra punch of that aromatic flavor. All right. A little bit of pepper. Right, and then this is going to go back in the oven for about 20 to 25 minutes until it's all melted and the top is golden brown. Sometimes I find the top doesn't quite go golden brown. If it isn't after 25 minutes, I just turn the broiler on, and just to give it that nice done texture and look. And I'll show you when it comes out. Okay, so we have taken this out of the oven. It looks lovely. Ooh, I'm just going to give you a quick shot of that. Nice and golden brown. And then, because I am calorie counting, I just like to make, while the cheese is still melted, make my little indents where I'm going to cut later. You never want to cut into a dish right when it comes out of the oven. You just kind of want to give it some time. So this is going to make 10 slices, and each slice will be about 250 calories. I mean, it's not like an exact science or anything, but pretty darn close. And if you're serious about counting or cutting those calories, then this works. Definitely works for me. Yeah, so here we are. We're divided into 10 generous portions. You can see how I've squished the cheese down. You can see exactly where to cut. So let me know what you think. I'd love for you to make this at home. If you make it at home, send me an email with the completed product, and I'll put your name into our next draw for another $100 in Visa prepaid cards. I look forward to sharing this lovely meal with you guys. Thanks.